This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum's summer exhibition, Desert Rider: Dreaming in Motion. Desert Rider explores the intersections of Indigenous, Latinx, and Chicano lowrider and skateboard culture in the American Southwest. Discover large-scale installations, photographs, and more by artists like Carlos Fresquez, Naniba Chacon, Justin Favela, and more. You can even create your own mini paper car that you can cruise down a miniature model of Federal Boulevard. The exhibition is on display now through September 24th. Learn more about Desert Rider: Dreaming in Motion at denverartmuseum.org. Today on CityCast Denver. There have never been fewer teens in Denver's workforce than there are right now. Yet at the same time, employers across the metro area are complaining about labor shortages. So what's up? Our teen correspondent and former reporter for the Thomas Jefferson High School Journal, Shayna St. Fard, is here to explain what she thinks adults are missing when it comes to those traditional summer jobs. Today is Monday, July 10th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Shayna St. Fard, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
So the Colorado Sun did some reporting on summer jobs and found that teenagers are making up less and less of the workforce. And Shayna, I know you're off to college in the fall, but did you have a job during the summer, the school year, or at all when you were in high school?
So I actually had a job during the school year, but not during the summer, which
Really?
is actually counter to what the article said.
Sure. Well, what kind of work were you doing?
So I was working at, I wonder if I should say the name, Rice Bistro and Sushi. Yeah, I'll give them some free clout.
Okay.
Yeah, as a hostess, waiter, and busser. It was fun. I got to work with some of my friends. One of my friends actually recommended me for the job, and that's how I got it. So I got to work with her after school. And so it was bonding. It was kind of fun. It was a learning experience. It was my first job in the service industry. It wasn't my first job ever, but I think that was what I would consider one of my first real quote unquote jobs.
Somewhere you have to show up. And
Yeah.
you mentioned with your restaurant job that you got that job in part because someone you knew already worked there.
Yeah.
I wonder, what is the experience like for you outside of that when you were maybe applying for other jobs? How did that go, and what did you encounter?
So Indeed.com was my go-to. I didn't really know who to ask for a job. I remember trying to apply for a barista position at a bunch of places. I tried Starbucks. I tried a lot of other places. My sister worked at Starbucks, so I was like, okay, how hard can it be? But my sister, of course, had prior experience through a job. She got through a friend recommendation at a boba shop, so it was easy for her to get barista qualifications.
So sometimes it feels like it's that you have to have previous experience, but how do you get previous experience if you've never had a job before?
And so I would go to places and I would say, hey, so you're hiring. Can I have an application? I would fill it. I never got a call back from any of them.
How many applications did you fill out?
For in-person, on paper, I did 5 of those.
Okay.
On Indeed, I did 57, and I got a call back from 3, and I did not get any jobs. But I was 15 at the time, and I didn't have a car, and a lot of the questions were,
what's your transportation?
Yeah, what's your transportation? And I was like, I can walk, I can bike. And they're like, oh.
So I guess why I wanted to talk to you is because you're the young person in question. In this report, they're talking about the fact that over the last couple decades, fewer and fewer teens are entering the workforce. What do you make of that report?
Almost all of my friends work.
Really?
And they work year round, which is definitely different. So for entering the workforce, I wonder if it's just talking about summer or if it's talking about other things. But I also have friends who are student athletes, who definitely prioritize their athletics in order for scholarships. I know that most of my friends are going to school for volleyball. And if it's D1 or D3, it's really good for them to prioritize volleyball.
Because future going forward, if you want to get into volleyball at that collegiate level, you need to be able to have put in the hours in the high school
yes.
realm of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to get noticed by coaches. It's a whole thing. But at the same time, they're also holding jobs, which is kind of insane, which it's school, it's volleyball, it's having a job. And that combination, I've seen it weigh pretty heavy on my friends because it's just, you don't have a lot of free time.
Yeah.
But I can see how teens are less reliable, just like over the summer, because I've also had teens be like, my friends, teens, quote unquote, my peers, they're like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. And I'm the little devil on the shoulder saying, call out, call out, call out. And they're like, maybe I will. So I can definitely see how, especially if you don't have that prior experience, people are going to be a little less likely, because teens are dependents on their parents. They don't need the money. Sometimes.
Sure. I was going to say,
Yeah.
I want to talk about that in a little bit, the sort of distinctions in class and socioeconomics.
Yeah.
But this comment you made about like calling out or not being reliable, I want to read a quote from the Colorado Sun piece that struck me, and I want to get your take on it because it's kind of about that reliability component, or are teens the right people for the job. So this quote is, it's from a franchise owner of a McDonald's in Lakewood. And she said, "It's really hard with kids these days because they want to be on their phone. They always want to have their AirPods in their ears. And in the food service industry, hospitality is huge. When I tell them some of those things, they're like, no, I don't want to work here." Is that an accurate assessment?
I would say it's a semi-accurate assessment, which kind of sucks for me to say. But even in school, and school isn't like what I'm judging people on, but it's impossible to go into a class without a student having an AirPod in or a phone out. I feel like just as a generation, our attention span is like, it's short. It's like studies have shown that. Wish I could pull it up right now. But studies have shown that students, their attention is less so. And when you're sitting in it's just so hard. It's just so hard to care as much as people want you to, because it's act your wage. Like that's
act your wage. Is that what you said?
Yeah, act your wage. If I'm getting paid $13 an hour, I'm not going to be standing up and being, "Hi, like, how are you today?" Blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
And there's definitely something about generational gaps where it's teens just are like, I'm replaceable enough so that I can leave. And
you
it's
feel
true.
like they're just going to find somebody else. There
Yeah.
isn't enough buy-in from your employer for you to care to put in your own
Yeah.
buy-in into the job. Is the
It's
general
kind
idea.
of like that, but it's also what I am doing here does not feed passion, and it's not something I'm going to be doing forever. So I am not going to give it my energy or my like spirit, because it's
Life's
not
too
feeding
short.
it. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. Hey Denver, are you tired of driving and paying for gas? Well, you're in luck. RTD and several other regional transit options are free both July and August this summer. You don't need to sign up. You won't need a ticket. You can just get on a train, get on a bus, and you're good to go. Now that is a breath of fresh air, literally, because the Front Range's biggest air quality problem is actually invisible. Created from pollutants like car exhaust that react in sunlight, ground-level ozone is a leading cause of respiratory problems. So taking the bus or light rail and biking or walking instead of driving just a couple days each week can make a big difference in our region's air quality. If you've been considering testing out a new commute or way to get around the city using the light rail or bus, July and August are the perfect time to do that. It's totally free, and you don't even need to sign up, and it improves our air quality. Learn more about how to help improve our region's air quality by visiting simplestepsbetterair.org. This episode is brought to you by the Colorado Wine Board. If you thought Colorado was just for beer lovers, think again. The Centennial State is home to over 165 wineries, which makes it easy to find a local label you love. Find urban wineries all over Denver, like Deep Roots Winery and Bistro, Carboy, Kingman Estates, and more. Plus, you can explore wineries across the Front Range and Western Slope. From Durango to Holyoke, you can make regional wine tasting a whole summer adventure. Colorado wineries have events all year long, featuring live music, tastings, special performances, and even grape stomping. Wherever your Colorado adventure takes you, you can certainly find a complex Cabernet or sparkling white to accompany you. The Colorado Wine Board offers a detailed map of all your favorite wineries, plus a calendar of can't-miss events and more. Discover your perfect wine and support local winemakers at coloradowine.com. You brought up the wage thing, which, so Denver Parks and Rec has yet again, they've had to limit their summer outdoor pool hours of operation because they have this staffing shortage. And that's after they increased hourly rates and offered more training last year. What do you think, Shayna? Shouldn't offering more money have sort of fixed the labor problem?
Raising wages is always going to be kind of just like yeah, you're going to get me in. If it's $17 an hour, that's great. It's not the most interesting, but the thing is, if you are going to do if you're going to be doing a job, people will go and find a job that pays more and do more. But then also, if it's a pool, I mean, kids don't mind the pool. You're going to go. So raising wages is going to be a good way to get people. It's not going to be like the best way. The best way is just to have an interesting job opportunity.
So it's really a balance between like good paying and keeps your attention kind of. So like, okay, so I noticed this I've mentioned this before, but I was at In-N-Out and it says starting at $19.50 and I think going up to $22 an hour. Yeah. Would that be a driver for you? That place is bonkers busy. Like I assume when you clock in at In-N-Out, you are on your feet working for your whole 8-hour shift. Obviously you have a brief break, but there's no stop time. Would that be something that you or your friends would consider?
Yes.
Is it the money?
It's the money. It's also the challenge of it.
Okay.
I know it's a chicken shop. And it's Chick-fil-A. And I hate to say this, but they offer very good benefits.
I'm not going to bring up your queer family situation.
Oh, don't even mention my queer situation as an individual. Oh my God, it's a guilty pleasure every single bite.
But there's a lot of teens that work there.
There are. And it's a highly competitive situation, which you wouldn't think, but it really is.
Really?
Because I applied. I wanted to work for Chick-fil-A. I don't know, break the bank. I don't know.
So they pay well?
They pay well. They offer benefits. It's easy to move up the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Morally gray, but come on.
What is it, morally gray maybe?
Exactly. If you're going to work for the pigs, get all the money. Anyways, there was an interview day where they were looking for candidates. My entire high school was there. It was over 200 people who were going for 5 positions. And this must have been 2 years ago. And everybody was 17. I knew people who had prior experience. And they weren't getting the job because they weren't giving the right answers. So it's also a combination of, are you willing to go there? Do you have the kind of media training that you need to get an interview? And for people who are more shy, it's hard for them to do that. And also COVID, I think, messed up teens more than we think. It messed up our networking skills. We lost 2 years of being out in the workforce, period.
And not to mention just not being social in your normal high school environment.
Yeah, and it makes people socially awkward.
So there's all these sort of hidden factors, it sounds like to me, that maybe adults are not picking up on that matter to teens, right? Like the cloud or the place, why you want to work there or why you want to be part of that company culture or that you look to that company culture as that's something I can get down with. That's my thing. So it's not just wages. It's not just the type of job. It's also how you feel about that place. Do you want to work there?
Yeah.
So I do want to talk a little bit about socioeconomic status in terms of why kids work. Could you talk about why you work? What's if you're comfortable talking about your personal socioeconomic situation, why do you work, Shayna?
Yeah. So I worked as a hostess mainly because I wanted more money. I think that's the reason a lot of people work. I just wanted more just fun spending money. I wanted to buy, new Adidas probably. And I wanted to actually kind of feel what it was like to be an adult. I know that I was going to become one. I wanted to figure out how to do my own taxes. I wanted to engage myself in a world where I didn't know. It was a lot more curiosity than it was actual fiscal need.
But like, so for other folks, maybe their situations are different where they're helping their parents maybe pay their bills, like they have to work.
Yeah. I know one of my close friends, they actually quit doing their sport so that they could provide for themselves and the water bill and a bunch of other things. And so she worked as a manager she started working at 14. And then she moved up to a manager level by 16 and has been working there for 2 years and is now buying her parents' home for herself.
That's amazing.
Because she wants to go to college here and she wants to work. But it really stemmed from a need. And you also have people who are, I just need a little more money and I can call off when I want because I have the freedom of my parents helping me. And it's hard for employers to kind of differentiate between who needs this and who doesn't. And so they err on the side of, I don't think you need it because it costs a lot of money to retrain people.
Yes.
And it's actually I learned this from my DECA class. Shout out Mr. Nicolo. It's the most expensive part of business is training employees because
so that turnover is also, I think that was brought up in the Colorado Sun piece, was like they don't want to hire teenagers for temporary, summers because they have to train somebody else to do that job in 3 months.
Yeah.
And so it's all these, it just like sounds like there's a lot more factors than just teens don't want to work.
Yeah.
So something I just kind of want to finish up with here is that I feel like your generation is prioritizing mental health in a way people my age and older have not really done.
Yeah.
And then like you mentioned, the pandemic has changed school forever, put stress on different kinds of stresses on you, and also removing those social aspects that you get from the high school experience. Do you think mental health factors into a teen's decision to get a job?
Yes.
Okay. How would it factor in for you?
For me, I was balancing competitive fencing. I was training for the Junior Olympics at the same time that I had a job. So I would go to school from 7:30 to 2. I would go to work from about 2:30 to either 8 or 10, depending on the day. And that left no time for me. And easily got depressed. Like when you don't have a single second for yourself and it's all devoted to something else, you just, you disassociate and you're like, I'm a robot that's meant to work, fence, and make other people happy. And my mom saw that and she was like, Shayna, it is not worth you losing your happiness and like brightness to be doing all of these things. I'm going to need you to stop. Now, does that mean that I have to now pack my own lunches and not go out to eat at the Noodles and Company?
Because you don't have that.
I don't have that spending money. And it's so sad, but it wasn't worth working. And so mental health really does count in. Now, I definitely know some of my friends who I'm like, you should quit. You should quit your job. You're so sad. You're unhappy. And they're like, I literally
I'd love
can't.
to, but I have to work.
Yeah.
So again, it's that socioeconomic status can factor into whether or not you can prioritize your mental health.
And yes. And I feel like there's a lot of adults who are like, well, yeah, like mental health, because I didn't get to do that. And I'm like,
yeah, and look at you now.
Yeah, I'm like, go see a therapist, please.
Like, yes, and I'm here to tell you, you need therapy because you avoided it this whole,
exactly.
Well, Shayna St. Bard, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Bree, for having me.
And here's what else Denverites are talking about: migrant shelters. The Denver Post reports that outgoing Mayor Michael Hancock announced last Thursday that Denver will not be moving forward with plans to hire a private security company to take over the city's migrant sheltering efforts. This comes after reports of alleged abuse and mistreatment from the company, Garda World Federal Services, as well as the company's inexperience in sheltering migrants. The city has already spent $20 million on migrant support since December, and the now canceled contract was for $40 million more. Incoming Mayor Mike Johnston said he will be committed to continuing the work of addressing Denver's migrant crisis. And it looks like the days of free tolls on I-70 are over. Starting tomorrow, the new I-70 Express Lane running from Brighton Boulevard to Chambers Road in Aurora will cost between $1.50 and $10.08, depending on the time of day and direction you're driving. Denverite reports that some Globeville area Swansea residents and families displaced from the community due to the highway's expansion can get subsidized transit passes and toll credits. Tolls are still free for motorcycles, buses, and vehicles carrying 3 or more people. We'll drop a link in the show notes with more information. And one last thing. If there was a Colfax Hall of Fame, who would you like to see honored? We're taking nominations right now. So if you know of a person, place, or thing that represents Colfax, let us know. Call and leave us a voicemail with your name and nomination at 720-500-5418. Again, you can reach the Colfax Hall of Fame hotline at 720-500-5418. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why don't you take a minute to tell Chick-fil-A CEO Andrew T. Cathy about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, by texting Denver to 66866. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later. Our teen correspondent and former reporter for the Thomas Jefferson High School